Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, everyone. So we will read from 6.47 Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse number 47, which happens to be the final verse of chapter number 6. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Prabhuji, do we request the devotees? We just continue, is it? Okay. So we'll continue with the synonyms. Yeah? Yoginam, of yogis. Api, also. Sarvesham, all types of. Madgatena, abiding in me, or always thinking of me. Anta Atmana, within himself. Shraddhavan, in full faith. Bhajate, renders transcendental loving service. Ya, one who. Mam, to me, the Supreme Lord. Sah, he, may, by me. Yukta Tamah, the greatest yogi. Mataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and he is the highest of all. That's my opinion. We will continue with the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki? Yeah. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaj, which is used when there is a need of service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshipping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. Bhagavatam 11.5.3 confirms this as follows. Vahesham purusham sakshat atma prabhavam ishwaram na bhajantya vajananti sthanat barashtra patantya daya daha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty onto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. In this verse, also the word bhajanti is used. Therefore, bhajanti is applicable to the Supreme Lord only, whereas the word worship can be applied. Is it correct? Following, right? Okay. whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods and to other common living entities. The word avajanti, used in the verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, is also found in the Bhagavad Gita. Avajananti mam muda. Only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Such fools take it upon themselves to write commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajanti and the word worship. The culmination of all kinds of yoga practice lies in Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti in Bhakti Yoga. Yoga means Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are progression towards the destination of Bhakti Yoga. From the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga is a long way of self-realization. Karma Yoga, without fruitive results, is the beginning of this path. When Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called Jnana Yoga. When Jnana Yoga increases in meditation onto the Supreme Lord by different physical processes and the mind is on Him, it is called Astanga Yoga. And when one surpasses the Astanga Yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Factually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name, Karma Yogi or Jnana Yogi or Dhyana Yogi or Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to come to Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of the Himalayas, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shyama Sundar, as a cloud whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels and whose body is flower-garlanded. Illuminating all sights is his gorgeous lustre, which is called the Brahman Jyoti. He incarnates in different forms such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda. And he's known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudeva. He's the perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he's full of all opulences and the transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. This stage of highest perfection in yoga can be attained only by Bhakti Yoga, as is confirmed in all Vedic literature. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha devo tata guru tasyete kadhita hirartha prakashante mahatmana. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of the Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Bhaktir asya bhajanam tat iha mudropadi nairas yena musmin manakalpanam etat eva naishkam karmyam. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desires for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclination, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. And this is the purpose of Naishkamya. This is from Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.15. These are some of the means for performance of Bhakti or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of the yoga system. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Dhyana Yoga. So we will begin with our Mangala Charan. Prabhu, can you move on to the next page, please? It's always nice to have a long purport, so the speaker has less to prepare. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaitya Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Seeking your permission, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu. So we will start off by looking at Srila Prabhupada's purport, trying to it's the essence, right? It's the essence. But what we will do is we will try to get the essence out of the essence. Okay. So yes. So to begin, Prabhupada says to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. In the purport itself, Srila Prabhupada explains, you have Karma Yoga, you have Jnana Yoga, you have Astanga Yoga, of which part of it is Dhyana Yoga, and then you have Bhakti Yoga. So clearly, Prabhupada emphasizes that Bhakti Yoga is the highest, right? Exactly what Lord Krishna is also explaining. And then, Yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, and Krishna in the form of Shyam Sundar, right? So if you look at this schematic over here, right? So what is Shyam Sundar? Shyam Sundar, it's too small for me to. All right, so Krishna is beautifully colored. In the purport, Prabhupada explains, Krishna is beautifully covered as a cloud, right? Whose lotus-like face is effulgent, whose dress is as brilliant, right? And then moving on, he's illuminating all sides with his gorgeous lustre, which is the Brahman Jyoti. And then he moves on to explain that, the Lord incarnates in different forms as Rama, Narsinga, Varaha, right? And Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He descends like a human being, right? As the son of Mother Yashoda, and he's the ideal perfect child. He's the ideal husband, friend, and master, and he's full of all opulences, right? So we know of the 6 opulences in which the Lord has the full potency of all of this, right? So that's Shyam Sundar. Right? So Prabhupada explains that first and foremost, we need to meditate on the features of Krishna, which is the names of Krishna, the forms of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, as well as the qualities of Krishna. So moving on with the remaining points in the summary. Prabhuji, can you please move on to, all right, good. Right? So service with love and faith. Right? So, and that's what bhakti is. Bhakti is not about, just doing service for the sake of doing service because you are being instructed to do it. There should be enthusiasm. There should be so much of faith and patience, right? And that can only come if there is surrender, right? There is surrender to the spiritual master as well as to Lord Krishna. Okay, let me just mention one very important caveat over here. All right, I'm giving this. I'm basically explaining all of this based on Shastra. This is not Vigyan. This is not realized knowledge which I have realized and I'm therefore sharing. No. To me, it is still theoretical, right? I've not lived all of this. All I'm saying is this is what Shastra is saying. Okay, very important caveat, because I can't live these principles yet, right? And I'll come to you. I'll explain later on about some of the barometers which we can use to check on our bhakti, etc. Right? So, and then moving on, right? Srila Prabhupada said, you cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. This is so important, right? This is just so important because if you look at the masses, sadly, 90%, 99% of them would not know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, point number one. And Prabhupada mentions very clearly, you will be condemned if you do not worship. Why will you be condemned? Very simple analogy, right? So we have got Yadu Prabhu over here, right? Primary 6 this year, right? Primary 6. If he does not go to class, he does not attend his virtual classes, etc., he doesn't sit for his tests, etc., what's going to happen? He will be condemned. Right? Of course, he's a wonderful student, so no such problems with him. I'm an employee of an organization. If I don't, attend those important meetings, etc., all right, I do not meet my KPIs, what's going to happen? I will be condemned, right? So similarly, if we do not follow the instructions in the Bhagavad Gita, which explains very, very clearly who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, what is our constitutional position, therefore, logically, we will be condemned to. Isn't it? Right? So, then Prabhupada moves on to explain all other yogas are but a means to come to this point. Yoga actually means Bhakti Yoga. And we will learn in this, in this purport that these are wonderful progressions. We cannot be judgmental. Hey, how come this guy is just at, the Karma Kanda principle? He hasn't even gone into Karma Yoga. Or, how come someone is like so stuck in Dhyana Yoga? No. We need to be respectful that these are all progressions. These are all progressions. And if the person comes in the association of a pure devotee, a spiritual master, then what can happen is he can leapfrog. He can leapfrog into Bhakti. Right? But to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand all of this yoga. It's so important to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely. We need to know who we should be serving. Right? What is the process of serving? Why do we serve? How do we serve? And what do we serve? One remains fully conscious of all of the features of the Lord, he becomes the highest yogi. Right? And of course, the Lord has, innumerable features, but over here, in the purport itself, it's explained, right? So we know of the Lord's names, the forms, the leelas, the pastimes, the features, etc. And we also know that, the Lord is Swayam Bhagwan, and from his body, the effulgence, the Brahman effulgence is emanating. And the Lord has also, multiplied himself as Chirodakshayi Vishnu or Paramatma in every atom, as well as in every human, every animal, every living entity. Right? So only onto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual masters will all of this knowledge be automatically revealed. Right? So Prabhupada is explaining, based on Svetasvatara Upanishad that, if we are just approaching, the bottle of honey without even opening the bottle and tasting it, then it's not Vigyan, it's not realized knowledge, and it is just theoretical stuff. You can teach theoretical stuff, but then we know in academic life that knowing is one thing, doing is another one more thing, and internalizing it and being is the highest. And this internalizing and being can only come if we have faith, if we have full surrender onto our spiritual master and Lord Sri Krishna. And this can only come with the blessings of the Lord. And only then all of this meanings within this purport, the scriptures, etc., all of that would be revealed. Otherwise, lifetimes after lifetimes after lifetimes, we can just keep on reading. We will not get a taste of it. That is why the association with pure devotees is so important. And very important, we need to be free from the desire for material profit when we should fully absorb, in the mind, the Lord. Right? So even Bhagavatam explains, a religion is not cheating if and only if it teaches us, unmotivated and uninterrupted love to the Supreme Personality of God. Okay, so that was just a quick summary of what the purport is. Let's now move on to analyze a little bit more of chapter 6, right? While I was preparing this, I realized that, wow, it's amazing. Every time the Lord wanted to or Vyasadeva wanted to complete a chapter, the Lord, Vyasadeva, gives a wonderful synopsis of what is coming up in the next chapter, right? So in chapter number 5, the Lord, in 27 and 28, the Lord explains very clearly what is coming in the next chapter on Dhyana Yoga. Very succinctly, the Lord explains. And the Lord also explains in this chapter number 6, right? At the end of it, what is coming up? I'm going to be speaking more on Bhakti Yoga. So chapter 6 ends with a succinct summary of what Bhakti Yoga is all about. And then chapters number 7 to 12 is the middle of the sandwich. Right? Yeah. So if you look at a vegetable sandwich, everyone likes the middle, right? So similarly, Bhakti Yoga is all explained very nicely in chapter number 7 to chapter number 12, and nicely camouflaged by Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga towards at both corners, like a book, right? So chapter number 6, what does chapter number 6 cover before we go deeper into this particular verse, right? So it explains the stages of Astanga Yoga, right? Stages of Astanga Yoga. Arjuna will say it's very, very, very difficult, but one of the stages, it starts with Yama, right? What are the don'ts, and then Niyama. All right, how should we conduct ourselves, keeping ourselves clean, etc. And then Astanga, right? Astanga is all those exercises, and then Pranayama, the breathing exercises, and then it comes to self-control, Pratyahaksha. Yeah, I'm just doing my Bhakti Shastri, I forgot. Basically, sense control. The Sanskrit word is Pratyaksha, is it? Pratyahara. Right, okay, good. Then Dharana, and then finally you come to Dhyana Yoga, and then liberation. Right? So these are the 8 limbs of Bhakti Yoga. We go, everyone calls themselves a yoga center, but the focus is only on Astanga Yoga. Right? So Lord Krishna explains the stages of this Astanga Yoga, those 8 stages, and then Arjuna, he expresses that this is not practical for me, right? It's not practical for me. And then Krishna explains the mind can be both your friend and your enemy. And then how do you go about controlling your mind? Otherwise, it's like a monkey which is drunk, right? Drunk monkey which is, bitten by hundreds of scorpions. That's how the mind is. It's just jumping and jumping and jumping. The only way to control it is by practice and detachment. But of course, we also learn in Bhagavad Gita that, right, mind, right? So if you look at a subtle body, you've got your mind, and then you've got your intelligence, and you have got your false ego. The mind can only be controlled if and only if the intelligence is spiritualized. Once the intelligence is spiritualized, then we can control the mind, because the mind will also be spiritualized. Otherwise, it's very, very, very difficult, right? So that's also covered over here. And then Arjuna asks, what happens to the fallen yogi, right? Fallen yogi, short practice, what happens? So Krishna explains, someone who has been practicing for a short period of time, he will be going up to the heavenly planets, right? Because he still has a lot of desire, and the Lord is so merciful. He gives us the ecosystem to fulfill our desires in the heavenly planets. Isn't it? The Lord is so kind. You want this? I'll give it to you. Right? I was hearing a lecture. Sometimes, when we are doing kirtan, right? We want to look good, we want to sound good, etc. The focus is not on the Lord. The focus is on how others will be perceiving me. It's all right. Then what the Lord will be doing is He will bring us to the heavenly planets, and we can enjoy being a big celebrity over there. Right? And then what happens is then we will take birth in a wealthy family. We will come back to Loca, earth, and we will, take birth in a wealthy family, a righteous family. Okay. So the point Krishna is trying to make over here is that bhakti, our practice, is never deleted or depleted. That's the best investment anyone can do. Right? So we have a lot of IIT scholars over here, many NUS scholars over here. I'm not a Harvard grad, but I work for them. Right? Essentially, everything goes to zero at the end of our life. Right? Mahathir Mohamad is 94. I just read papers, news reports that any moment, the doctors have given up on him. How much of wealth he would have amassed, I'm not too sure. But everything goes to ground zero. Nothing goes along with us. My degree from NUS, etc., is all gone. Next life, I start off with Baba Flagship. Isn't it? So this is the best investment Krishna is telling us. Best, it's all right. You cannot finish, is okay. We'll come back and continue from where we stop. And if it's a long practice, then the Lord will also ensure that you are provided a solid ecosystem to continue from there, right? You take birth in a family of yogis or spiritualists. Look at our friend over here, right? Continuing from the past life, isn't it, Prabhu? Okay. And then, so verse 7 is a concise statement of bhakti, direct process of surrender to the Lord. And then, this yoga can also be succinctly expressed. These forms of yoga can also be succinctly expressed in a form of a ladder, and we will come to that very, very shortly, right? So let's move to the next page, Prabhuji. So what is yoga not? I think it's very important to keep on emphasizing to our friends, who thinks that yoga is just asanas. Yoga is not about coming up with a shapely body, a good health, etc. Although these are all important elements, right? We should not ignore our health. But it's much more than that. Next page, Prabhuji. So what is yoga? Yoga essentially is to connect, to link. Link what with what? To link in love our individual soul with the super soul, our soul with the Lord. All right, that is what yoga. Religion comes from the Greek word religare. Religare means what? To reconnect back. Right? To reconnect back with our source, and we know who the source is. Right? So a yogi is a person whose life and activities are just oriented to re-establishing this relationship with the Lord. Okay. So now let's look at the yoga ladder. Right? I'm just going to be explaining very clearly. I may not explain it correctly, etc. I would suggest that please, take some time and go to His Holiness Romapad Swami Maharaj's blog, because he explains it so nicely. Very easy to understand when you hear it from Maharaj or when you read it, right? So, essentially, if you look at the yoga ladder, it explains, right? It explains that as you move up the ladder, right, ultimately your focus is just, sacrificing for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay, as you are moving up. And then, you are also progressing from worshipping the partial feature of the Lord, which is the Brahman effulgence, to the Paramatma feature, and then to the Bhagavan feature. You are nicely progressing upwards. But if you look at the lower rungs of the yoga ladder, then The lower rungs explains to you or establishes how we can progress by, removing our false ego, being able to control our senses, etc. So what does it mean? Let's look at this in detail. Prabhuji, can you move on to the next slide? Let's start with level number 0, right? Where, 90% of the population, maybe more than that, they are at this materialistic enjoyment stage, right? So they're not at karma yoga, they are not karma kanda, nothing. They are just karmis, right? Essentially, it's the lowest level, all right? And they are just interested in material happiness. No spiritual inclination at all, right? Most of us, I'm not sure about you, but I was like that. I'm still like that, but, all right? So that is the lowest level. We cannot even put them on the yoga ladder, but just to put them in, just to explain this in context. Then let's move on, right? Then we come to level number 1, which is karma kanda. Karma kanda or attached work, right? So, after leading a materialistic life, one fine day, a Bollywood actor asks, what's life all about? Right? A corporate leader will ask, what is life all about? I work so hard, I'm working so hard. This is all the remuneration which I'm getting, and it's just nice to pay for my hospital bills. Right? What is there? There must be a higher purpose in life. And it's amazing because if you look at the number of Harvard Business Review articles published on having a purpose, it's just increasing year on year because corporate leaders are beginning to understand. And I myself, I'm trying to see if there's a correlation in the number of Indian CEOs, with the principle of spiritual intelligence. They understand it better than, some of their counterparts, right? So after experiencing frustration with such a lifestyle, they begin to realize that there is a higher order. There is a higher order. If I want something, I should ask him. And he will provide this. Him can be classified as the demigods, or maybe can even be classified as the Supreme Lord. So that's what karma kanda is. It's attached work. Actually, if you look at the life of Dhruva Maharaj, I do not know whether it's the right word to say, in my opinion, Prabhuji. But he started off with this, karma kanda mindset. I want a kingdom which is bigger than what my grandfather has, my father has, etc. And then Lord Narada explained to him, you worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you will get it. So he started off with this mindset that I want something more. And therefore, if I worship, I will get this. That's the karma kanda mentality. But it's okay. We cannot be judgmental because we saw in this particular case that when someone was doing this, when Dhruva Maharaj was focused on this, what happened in the entire process of conducting devotional service? His heart got cleansed. His heart got cleansed and he had face-to-face darshan of Lord Vishnu. And when Lord Vishnu asked him, what do you want? He said, I was actually asking and crying and fighting for broken pieces of glasses when actually I could have gotten the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's so amazing, right? So it's okay. It's all right. We cannot be a treasurer of, another temple at one point in time. When we count the money, right? Sometimes you see letters. Oh God, oh Krishna, my son is sitting for PSLE. This is $10 for you. Please give him 4 A stars. That is karma kanda principle. It's okay. Doesn't matter. I've also done that. When I'm going for interview, I will write and put it under Krishna's altar, etc. It starts like that. So we should encourage people. We should just encourage people. Then moving on. If you read Canto number 6, chapter number 1, right? It's a wonderful conversation with, let's time check. Do we have 20 more minutes? Wonderful conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami. Parikshit Maharaj is saying, I've got 7 days, it's all right, but I'm just worried about the masses. How can their sins be cleared? So Sukadev Goswami was testing his disciple and told him that, they need to get involved in karma kanda. All right. For bigger sins, they need to do bigger sacrifices. For smaller sins, they need to do smaller sacrifices based on the book of Dharma. All right? And Parikshit Maharaj was not at all impressed. Parikshit Maharaj was not. He said, no. But you know what's going to happen is today they will sin, then Sunday they will go to temple and then clear up their sins, and then Monday they will start again. You know, I was in Spain last month and we visited so many churches just to, appreciate the beauty of those churches. Actually, Bhakti Vinod Thakur used to say, wow, my Lord can be worshipped in so many ways. So amazing. You know, the Lord can be worshipped in so many ways. Doesn't stop us from going to the churches to appreciate how Lord is worshipped. But in all those churches, they had wonderful, these boxes. And my daughter Haripriya, she used to be so appreciative of all these boxes. Oh, I sin, and then I just go in and ask for forgiveness, and the next week I can start again. Right? So that's the elephant bath. Right? The elephant baths, and then what does he do? Throws sand back, mud back on its body. So Parikshit Maharaj was just not impressed. He said, what can we do? What can the masses do? This is not going to help. All right, Parikshit is not going to help because that impetus is going to be there. Then we will come to the explanation shortly. Right? Then the next stage is Sakama Karma Yoga, right? Where the yoga is starting. Earlier on was Karma Kanda. Now you see the word yoga. So Sakama Karma Yoga means, I know that the Lord is there. I need to be detached. I need to, my mindset should be that everything belongs to the Lord, but it's okay. I give Lord 2, I keep 2 for myself. Okay? I'm just reflecting on my own gyro payment. All right? Then there is Sakama Karma Yoga, where, already some advancement is there, but next level is amazing. That's when Nishkama comes. I'll just keep enough for my familial maintenance. Everything else is the Lord's. I came with 0, I'm going to go with 0. Everything is the Lord's. But it does not stop me from working. I'm going to work as hard as possible. All right? But for the pleasure of the Lord. That's what Nishkama Karma Yoga is all about. Right? Not neglecting your work, doing your work to the best of your abilities, but with a clear understanding that I'm not attached to my results and everything is the Lord's. And actually there's research from Harvard which shows that sales guys who work with this psychology that, I will give my best, but I'm not attached whether the deal comes in or not, they make the best salespeople. Amazing. Tell our children this. Right? Just study hard. Don't bother about the results. Okay? So that's the next level where, nish means no. No desire, nishkama, no desire in linking back to the Lord. That's nishkama. Because you feel you are not the proprietor, I'm just the custodian of the resources. Right? If you look at all the MBA programs, University Putra Malaysia has got an amazing MBA program because they are trying to evolve their students to realize that they are custodian of resources and not proprietors of resources. When I heard this from the dean, I was like, wow, you guys understood the message of Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Because, we are eternal servants of Lord, right? Yes, we are eternal servants of the Lord, and we need to function for His satisfaction, thereby becoming a Mahatma. Mahatma means broad-minded, serving the senses of the Lord, not serving my senses or my family senses. Otherwise, it's called a Duratma or cripple-minded person. Okay. So by doing Nishkama Karma Yoga, what is going to happen is the heart will become purified slowly. Purified slowly, and then there is possibility of leapfrogging into Jnana Yoga. Right? At the same time, Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga can also immediately jump to Bhakti Yoga if we have the right association. But let's take the gradual step, right? By purifying the heart, by not being attached, realizing that everything is the Lord's. I just do my best. Slowly our hearts become purified. And that's what Jnana Yoga is all about. Jnana Yoga is about linking with the Lord through the pursuit of knowledge. What's the knowledge? It's about who I am. What's my purpose? Who is the Lord? This is the type of knowledge which a Jnani focuses on. But at the same time, there's a lot of speculation involved. Right? And then why does the person start thinking like that? Because through the knowledge, he realized that, hey, wait a moment. The birds are also surviving. The animals are also surviving. Why do I need to work so hard? All right. The plants are also getting their food. So there's the Lord will provide. And he begins this entire process of speculation. All right. And then he starts thinking, my heart has become very, very pure. Right? God is also pure. I'm eternal. God is also eternal. I'm conscious. God is also conscious. And therefore, I'm also God. No? All right? That's the possibility of falling into this mindset. All right? That I'm also God. So, and then, they try to seek for liberation by wanting to merge into the Brahman effulgence. Right? So now let's go back to Bhagavatam, Canto 6, chapter number 1. Continue with the conversations between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami. So Parikshit Maharaj was not impressed about Karma Kanda. And then Sukadev Goswami explained to him, then Jnana Yoga will help. Jnana Yoga will help because they understand. They understand how to behave, how to conduct themselves, who is the Lord, how to approach the Lord, etc. Parikshit Maharaj was still not convinced. All right, he was still not convinced. Why? He says, in this whole Jnana Yoga episode, it's like Prabhuji, can you move on to the next slide? Sorry. All right, it's like, the bamboo being burnt, the bamboo forest being burnt, right? And then what happens after 6 months? The bamboos will grow back, the shoots will grow back again. Because you are not removing the inner desires, right? The inner desires are not removed. So what kind of atonement is this? Sri Sukadev Goswami. And then Sukadev Goswami was so pleased with his disciple. He said, yes, let's move on to the next stage, which we will discuss 2 stages later. All right. So now let's focus on this Jnana Yogi. All right. This Jnani, right? He has been purified and now he's beginning to think that I'm as good as God, right? And then slowly, by meditating more and more, he becomes purer and purer. And then he realizes that, hey, wait a minute, I'm not God. All right? I'm just a minute, I've just got minute independence. And God is abundant and unlimited. I'm Anu and he's Vibhu. All right? And then he starts into this Astanga Yoga platform. All right? So Astanga Yoga is this 8 limbs, starting with, Yama, what I should not do, those regulations. And then moving on to Niyama. All right? Niyama is, how I should conduct myself, cleanliness, etc. Right? And then Asana, we spoke about this pranayama, and then pratyahara. Finally, I got the word. Dharana, right? Dharana is focusing, and then dhyana, which is meditation, and then liberation. But there's a fault in this, or there's a possible stuck into this mystical yoga, right? This siddhis, where you can become lighter than the lightest, the heavier than the heaviest. You can walk on the moonbeam, on water, etc. I've actually seen some of this at the Kumbh Mela. Right? A few years ago, we went. Amazing. Really amazing. Right? So there's an inherent danger of falling into this trap of 8 siddhis. Right? So there's a lot of austerity. Yeah? There's a lot of austerity which they have to go through. Right? And Arjuna is saying, no, it's not going to be easy for me. And then, after this comes Bhakti, right? After this comes Bhakti, where the devotee, the yogi realizes that, we can go beyond just worshipping the Paramatma feature. He gets the intelligence and then he moves on to Bhakti Yoga. Right? So, in the earlier stage of Dhyana Yoga, he had to forcefully, cold turkey style, control his senses. But then now in Bhakti Yoga, it's amazing because you control your senses through the worship of the Lord. If you want to eat a lot, then what you do is, this is not the right way. Serve the Lord and then partake the prasadam. All right. So whatever activities you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in charity, etc., do it as a service to the Lord, and that becomes bhakti. All right. Easiest way to revive our dormant inherent constitutional position, right? Because we are eternally a servant of the Lord. We need to serve. In the earlier versions of the yoga, in the earlier rounds of the yoga, we were not serving. But now we are beginning to serve. All right? And we know the 9 processes, introduced by Prahlad Maharaj, beginning with hearing, chanting the Lord's name, remembering the Lord, Archanam, Vandanam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So these are processes in which you can, engage yourself to reach the Lord. That's the highest, right? That's the only thing which actually attracts the Lord. The Lord is sold by a devotee's bhakti. Okay. So then coming back to canto number 6, chapter number 1, conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami. And then Sukadev Goswami is saying, okay, the highest, right? So he recites this particular verse. Kechit kevalya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agam dunvanti kats yena niharam eva bhaskara. When I was growing up, I had neighbors who used to go to Bhaskar Academy, Prabhuji, for dance. I was wondering, what is this meaning of Bhaskar until I read this verse. Bhaskar means sun, right? Sun rays. When the sun rays are there, fully effulgent, what happens? The dew will not exist. Within a few minutes, the dew will exist. So, similarly, what the Lord says is only a rare person who has adopted complete, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. Okay, just focus on this particular verse because this is, in my opinion, a barometer verse which explains to us how advanced we are in our bhakti. Okay, why is it I still have these desires? Why is it I still, Pradeep Kumar, Padma Locan still has these desires to do crazy things? When nobody is seeing. Why? It is because my devotion is not unalloyed. Right? Wonderful verse which explains that very, very rare who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. If our service is unalloyed, complete faith, unmotivated, uninterrupted, then the Lord takes over ownership of us and he uproots the weeds of sinful action and no possibility of reviving it. In the case of Jnana Yoga, the bamboos will burn 6 months later because the roots are still there. The shoots will come up. But Sukadev Goswami is explaining very, very clearly over here that if we are 100% into bhakti, there is no chance of us having these sinful actions and no possibility that they will revive. This gives a lot of hope to everyone, isn't it? This gives a lot of hope. Right? So I call that, my barometer verse, right? He can do this by simply discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Okay? So this is one barometer verse. Let's look at barometer is just to measure. Sometimes they'll say, the barometer of your bhakti is how your tulasi is growing, which I don't believe in. I don't know, maybe Shastras are saying, I'm not sure. But because I do not have bhakti, but tulsi grows very nicely in my house because of the sun rays. Right? So the next barometer verse is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Actually, it is from Narada Pancharatna, which is quoted by Rupa Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, because Mahaprabhu is teaching Rupa Goswami this, right? Sarvapadi vinarmukyam tatparatvena nirmanam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the master of all the senses, right? Rishikena Rishikesha. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Lord, there are two side effects. Number one is you are free from all material designations. I'm this manager, I'm that manager, I'm this, I'm that. All of that will go off. Okay, that false ego will be gone. And simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified. Right? So that shows us, my senses are not purified. I'm still so entrenched to my material designation. That means zero. Or maybe it's there, I don't know. Still long way to go. Okay? Right? So pure devotional service as defined by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and repeated by Srila Rupa Goswami is this. When first class devotional service develops, this is the third barometer verse, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy and fruitive actions. And the devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably. Right? So another two verses, very, very nice, which again, hovers around this concept. Just as a blazing fire burns everything within a room, the senses can be controlled only by bhakti. And this is what Prabhupada writes in the purport of 2.41. Okay, who is also situated in the hearts of the yogi and burns up all kinds of impurities. One process is to find the root of the tree. All right, once you find the root of the tree, you need to water. So similarly, Jnana Yoga finds the soul of existence. And by Bhakti Yoga, one renders devotional service to the soul of the material world, Lord Vishnu. Right? So, next page. Prabhu, sorry I've not been prompting you, but you are, the Antaryami in you is explaining how to move to the next page. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, this is the ladder of spiritual development, right? So, Karma Kanda, right, where you are getting into a business exchange with the Lord or maybe with the demigods. I give you this, oh Lord, please give me something else in return, right? Then moves on to Sakama Karma Yoga. And then, if you purify it further, where you have got no attachments to the results, you are doing it, without any attachment to the best of your ability, it becomes Nishkama, where there's no desires. And then, right, as you become more and more pure, right, there's a possibility of getting into this Jnana Yoga, right, where the Jnani is into mental, philosophical speculation, and then Astanga Yoga, and finally Bhakti Yoga. But we know that actually from Karma Yoga, we can leapfrog to Bhakti Yoga. Right? So, another way of looking at it is as follows. Right? Karma Yoga is action-oriented. Right? And then Jnana Yoga is knowledge-oriented. Dhyana Yoga or Astanga Yoga is perfection oriented, and therefore we can fall into this, right, siddhi, perfection, right? What about bhakti? What is bhakti oriented? Any guesses? What do you think? Actually, this is a last minute verse which I got from Gauranga Prabhu on his Facebook. Service, wonderful, is dependence oriented. You are totally dependent on the Lord. You are fully surrendered onto the Lord. All right, that's what bhakti. Fully surrendered unto the Lord. The Lord will always protect me and He will take care of my devotional service. Right? So, I like that, Thank you, Gauranga Prabhu. Right? So, and in Astanga Yoga, austerity was the way to, get the senses under control. But in Bhakti Yoga, it's not the cold turkey way, but it's engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. Next page, Prabhuji. 28, slide number 28, right? So if we break down this verse again, we realize that, okay, great faith, right? We have great faith. Faith is about, gyan, right? You have the knowledge and therefore the faith develop. Thinking of me within himself, that's dhyana, right? Dhyana, meditating on the Lord in the heart. And then renders devotional service is bhakti. right? And then you are absorbed, you abide by me. That's a combination of karma, jnana, dhyana, and bhakti. Therefore, this verse, which Lord Krishna succinctly explains what karma yoga is all about, is actually a culmination of the different yogas. Think about it. If you go deeper, it explains to you that Bhakti Yoga, there's a reading of the scriptures, right? In the pursuit of knowledge, you are detached, Karma Yoga, right? Knowledge, you are meditating on the Lord, and then there is this dependence, full love on the Lord, and you are worshipping the Lord's feature as Bhagavan. Dhyana Yoga, you're worshipping the Paramatma feature localized in every atom as well as in every living entity, focused on scriptures, detachment, etc. Similarly, Jnana Yoga is on the Brahman effulgence, etc. And then Bhakti Yoga is independent, but all the yogas are dependent on it for achieving ultimate perfection. So just 2 more slides, right? I'm just reminded of this wonderful episode of Bharat Maharaj. Yeah, Bharat Maharaj, right? Closer, all right. So Bharat Maharaj, what happened was, we know the episode, right? So Bharat Maharaj left everything because he wanted to focus more on his devotion for the Lord. But along the way, he got attracted to serving the deer. So he was doing wonderful devotional service. But then why suddenly he left everything? It's an amazing point, Many a times, sometimes we get frustrated with our God siblings. Sometimes we get frustrated with, certain practices, etc. And then what happens? We want to leave the temple. We want to leave the association of certain God brothers, etc. But this is an amazing story which explains to us the danger of thinking that you can survive alone. Right? Because there was no sadhu sangha to correct him. All right? There was no sadhu sangha to correct him. And therefore, he had to take the life of a deer. A wonderful, amazing story. Prabhu, next slide if you don't mind. Okay. So we'll do it differently because I'm always very anxious and very nervous whenever anyone asks me questions. Of course, I've got Prabhuji over here. So I will ask you questions today for a change. Right? In what sense is bhakti more liberal than the other spiritual paths, such as Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga? I have a question for you. Prabhu, with their mask, they can still speak, right? Can, okay. We'll change the format a little bit today. Okay. So please tell me, in what way is Bhakti Yoga more liberal? Quick, dinner what slides already looking at me. Prabhu, you have 5 more minutes now. There's a mic there. No need, I think I can hear. Okay. Anyone? The mic is on. See? Yes.
There is active reciprocation.
Wonderful. There's wonderful reciprocation in devotional service. Yeah, wonderful, right? We also come to the point of the 6 exchanges explained in Nectar of Devotion, verse number 4. Now, Nectar of Instruction, verse number 4. Goyam akyati prachati. I can explain because I'm forced to memorize all these verses for my Bhakti Shastri. In a week's time, I will forget all of this. Okay, wonderful. What else, Prabhuji? What else? Why is it liberal? Liberal means easy, compared to the other 2 forms. Just see how I flip the whole thing. Before you ask me questions, I'm asking you questions. Taking up the time. Anyone else? Mataji's? Exactly. Yeah, these 8 limbs, you don't need to do that. Okay? Just be dependent oriented. Yes, wonderful, Mataji. Thank you very much, right? So you don't have to do those. You can go immediately into this. What else? But just shy. So Bhakti Yoga doesn't require seclusion, as what Mataji sends, abnegation, breathing exercises, physical strength, postures, etc. In Bhakti Yoga, we get to pursue our relationship with Lord, right? By actively engaging our senses in prasadam, in kirtan, in dancing, in art, music, etc. Right? And it's very, very easy. I say it's easy, but actually it's not easy, right? Chapter number 12, verses number 2 to 5 explains that, the Lord can be easily approached, And then Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam 9.26 explain, you cannot make very difficult. It's okay. Water is okay. No, the Lord is looking for the devotional element in it, right? And then, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer as charity, do that as a offering to me, right? So the dovetail, I call that the dovetail mantra. 9.27, right? And then, so it's very easy. And then what's Krishna's opinion? Krishna's opinion is, although it's very, very easy, it's the highest. 6.47 is the highest. All right? Krishna is saying, just surrender unto me and fight for me. Similarly, whatever we are doing, just do it as a offering to the Lord. All right? And then at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, just think of me, come to me. Right? Abandon everything else. That's his opinion, because this is the highest. Right? So there's reciprocation, as what Prabhuji has mentioned, protection and swift deliverance. Right? And it's also all-encompassing, as we just discussed. There's jnana in it, there's dhyana in it, there's also karma yoga in it. And that's amazing benedictions, right? In the Chatur Shloka verse, it's explained, in verse number 10 and 11. The Lord will give us the understanding on how we can actually approach him. All right? And the torchlight verse is, the Lord will destroy the ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge. Okay. So that brings us to the end of today's discussion. I'm so sorry if, I've put you on the spot, number one, if I've gone a little bit out. But thank you very much for listening and reciprocating in the Q&A. Do you have any questions? No? Any questions? Yes. Oh. Yes, Mataji. Yeah. Yes, please. Yes. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I will start off by answering, and then I will request Devaki Prabhu to add on. Right. So the question is enthusiasm, right? We spoke about enthusiasm or dairyaha, is it? That's the Sanskrit word? Utsaha. Yeah. Utsaha. When people start off, there's just so much of enthusiasm, but along the way, the enthusiasm, sometimes calms down a little bit. Why is that so? Correct, Mataji? Is that a question, right? So, a lot of reasons, enthusiasm will be fanned if we are in the association of devotees, right? Because the fire from them will affect us. If we go away from the association of devotees, then, all right, kal dekhenge, tomorrow we will see, this is Kali Yuga, kal dekhenge, it's all right. Tomorrow, I'll wake up for Mangal Aarti a bit later tomorrow. It comes down because there's no one to keep track of us, right? So the enthusiasm goes down. And also, I think it's important to introspect, what has gone wrong along the way? Are we, for example, are we blaspheming any devotees? Are we getting into Prajalpa? Whatever small little Bhakti Lata beach which is growing, are there creepers around it which is pulling us down? Right? So there's a lot of introspection which is required. There's this whole process of anartha nivritti, where we sit down and analyze. We get into a loving exchange with others, with a mentor, etc. Revealing our mind in confidence, getting mentorship from them on what we should be doing, on how we can go about conducting ourselves. So I'll take a pause here and ask Prabhuji to. Anything?
Criticism
Okay.
of devotees. Bhakti Yoga says that when we create offenses against devotees in our hearts, and when we are unfavorable to them, and we criticize them and find fault, that actually affects the devotional people. And the symptom of the effect of the devotional people is that we lose enthusiasm for devotees. And the problem is because we don't have the eyes to see it nor the humility to accept it, we blame others for the lack of our enthusiasm. And that perpetuates the problem. So repentance, Bhakti Thakur says, is the way to move forward, to increase our enthusiasm. And repentance must be done before the Vaishnava. Sometimes there's this idea that people give that I just need to repent in front of Krishna and I don't have to repent in front of the Vaishnava. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that's a very easy way out. One should actually stand before the Vaishnava and one should not engage, as Prabhu said, in Pujalpa. And that will create more enthusiasm in the heart. So that is very important.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Okay, any other questions for Prabhu?
Then we should stop.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhuji. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai Padma Locan Prabhu ki. Thank you.
You need something? No, I just want to know how do I. Oh, okay. Yeah. Something. It's okay, I'll just leave and I'll come back here, Prabhu. You want the screen, Prabhu?
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem. Just move there.
Carry on, Prabhu.
Yeah, the thing is good.
Okay.
Okay. I'll take this one.
Prabhu, this one, just leave it on, is it? Off. Finish up. So do I leave studio?
Huh?
Here to continue the work. We welcome you to the congregation. You've been doing so nice services for Guru Maharaj, and we hope to engage you more in Singapore also. Thank you, Mataji. Loud Haribol to welcome Mataji, please. Haribol. Haribol. I also understand that we have a Dr. Manoj Prabhu. Is he here today with us from Delhi? Okay, so Padma Locan Prabhu just introduced me to him. Thank you for joining us also, Prabhu from Delhi, and we welcome you to our program also. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So thank you to all of you who have come. Next week, tomorrow morning, please join us for Srimad Bhagavatam. And then next week, we have Kirtan night. Right? We're going to start back the Kirtan night. So we'll have 2 or 3 devotees who will sing, and then it's all singing, and then I think it's a good way because we just closed chapter 6, and the following week we will start with chapter 7. We are planning for Nityananda Prabhu's Appearance Day, which is the first major festival that will come. I believe it's on the 14th of February, which will be on a Monday, I think. But we'll keep you informed how we're going to do the program. Okay? So thank you very much for joining us. And we want to encourage you to please have more programs in the center. If you're going to have some friends and you have the 5-person rule in your house, you want to invite people for preaching, it's just better coming to the center and organizing a nice program, right? Queen Mataji, Padma Locan Prabhu do it. Sudhir Prabhu is going to do it in February. So we have many devotees who are coming forward now to have such programs here. Please, they will have such wonderful darshan of Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra, and this is the best, most effortless way of taking up devotional service. So thank you very much for that. So look forward to a good year. I know that, things are still difficult in terms of sannyasis or devotees visiting us, but Krishna willing, we will still continue association of their lordships and the devotees. Now we request everyone to rise so that we can have Gaurarti for the pleasure of their lordships. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki Jai. Jiva Jayo Jayo Gaura Chande Arati ka Shobha Jiva Jayo Jayo Gaura Chande Arati ka Shobha Jahana Vikata
Paramahamsa Parivaracharya Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivaracharya Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki
Jai.
ISKCON founder, BBD founder, BI founder, Bhakti Kavachendra founder, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki
Jai.
Shri Shri Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki
Jai.
Ananda Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki
Jai.
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की
Jai.
श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की
Jai.
श्री वृंदावन भूमि धाम की
Jai.
श्री मथुरा धाम की
Jai.
श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की
Jai.
नीलाचल पुरुषोत्तम चेत जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की
Jai.
चक्रतीर्थ वामन चेत द्वारपुरी धाम की
Jai.
गंगामयी की मनमाई की
Jai.
श्रीमती तुलसी वृंदावन देवी की
Jai.
समवेत भक्त वृंद की
Jai.
जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की
Jai.
हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र युग धर्म की
Jai.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की
Jai.
गौर प्रेमानंदे
Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembly
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembly
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembly
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Goranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
You know, suppose that might go to on more. Maharaj ki jai. Gaura Premanand. Thank you, Prabhu Mataji, for joining us. One quick question. We are going to have a Sadhu Aswami program at the Sadhu Aswami Center on the 4th of February. It's going to be a Friday. We will need a Mridanga player. It's going to be at 5 p.m. to 6:30. Not sure how the timings work out. I'm sending out the feelers. If anyone can make it, it will be good. If there are devotees who want to join us there, please let us know by this week. And then, I think we have slots for about 38 devotees, maybe even 10 if we can push it. But we get confirmation and we can let them know. It will be a good occasion to go back to Sadhu Aswami Center also, right? So it's going to be from 5 to 6:30 in the evening. The other thing I wanted to keep you all informed, Yamaraj Prabhu, who is standing there, is going to fly in the early hours of this tomorrow morning to South Africa to serve His Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj. Right? We wish him, safe travel. He's been an amazing part of our program for so many months and years. It's not that he's going away permanently, just in case you all are getting worried. He's not, right? You're not, right? Okay. But we pray that, he may be there for a few months to serve Maharaj. But we pray, Prabhu, that you come back as soon as you can. And if you're taking too long, then we will email Maharaj and request for your presence back here again as soon as possible. I don't know whether you're pleading for me not to do that or to do that. I can't say that. Okay. So we pray. Yamaraj Prabhu ki! Thank you. I think one of the things we will miss is the Sunday prasadam that he cooks. But I'm sure, that there are so many other talents that will be well used in the service of Guru and Gauranga in South Africa. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu's Mataji's. We can leave now, Prabhu? Okay. Start leaving from down. And Krishna willing, see you again. Hare Krishna.